Welcome to Movie Recall. In today's video, we will be going through the 2006 movie Stay Alive. It's time to recall. Let's get started, turn on subtitles, and spoilers ahead. The movie begins with a guy playing a horror game. In it, he wanders around a mansion where various dead girls chase him and a stately woman haunts him. He finds two other players dead in a torture chamber-like room and is soon pushed off the landing, after which his neck gets entangled in some chains and he dies. In real life, Loomis, the guy who was playing the game, calls his friend Hutch to tell him about this new game he is trying out and invites him to come over and play. His friend promises to meet him over the weekend. After that, Loomis feels spooked and gets scared by random noises, such as his roommate and his girlfriend having some freaky times together. That night, Loomis wakes up from his sleep and goes downstairs to the kitchen. On his way back, he feels something is following him and runs upstairs. He goes to his roommate's room to see that Rex and his girlfriend Sarah have been killed in a bloody manner. He screams at the sight just as a chain wraps around his neck and he is hanged. The following morning, we follow Hutch at his workplace where he is called to see his boss Miller. Miller looks agitated and Hutch is worried that he is in some sort of trouble. But as it turns out, Miller is simply annoyed by his character getting killed again in a game he's been playing, and he has asked Hutch into his office to ask him for advice. Hutch is relieved and gives Miller some pointers before a coworker arrives to tell him that he has a call. Hutch then finds out about Loomis, and we see him at his friend's funeral in the next scene. There, he meets a girl named Abigail who takes pictures of Hutch before introducing herself as Sarah's friend. The two get to talking before Hutch meets Loomis's sister and gives her a hug. Loomis's sister hands Hutch a bag full of Loomis's things that she thinks Hutch will have some use for. Before leaving, Abigail gives Hutch her number in case he wants to talk. Hutch heads over to meet his friends at a gaming cafe. October gives him a hug as Phineas makes some jokes in an insensitive manner. October then asks Hutch what is in the bag and finds an old photo album with pictures of Hutch and Loomis when they were children. Phineas finds a lighter and plays around with it. This triggers Hutch, who has a fear of fire, before October scolds Phineas for being so careless. Phineas apologizes before going through the games in Loomis's bag and finds a title he and October have not heard of. Hutch recognizes the name Stay Alive and tells him that it was the same game Loomis was beta testing the night he died. In fact, he had called Hutch over to play, but Hutch blew him off, something he feels guilty for. Phineas is pumped about having an illegal title, as the game is still in testing, and suggests they all play it. Hutch is hesitant about this, saying it's weird to play the game Loomis was playing before he died, but is convinced by Phineas. Hutch's friends come over to his place to play the game in co-op. We meet another of Hutch's friends, Swink. Abigail is also invited, although she has not played first-person shooter games before. Joining them from the office is Miller, Hutch's boss, and also their friend. The game starts and everyone has to read out a prayer on the screen, which impresses them all as voice-automated technology is next-gen stuff and not available yet. The narrator in the game tells them that they've made a mistake, and we see something past the gang, marking them for death. The narrator explains the story of the George Plantation and Elizabeth Bathory as everyone customizes their characters. The game begins at the plantation, where they have to figure out the secret of what happened to the girls who disappeared at the plantation, but in order to do that, they need to stay alive. A dead child approaches them and Hutch shoots her. As her spirit leaves her body, Hutch gains a rose from the kill, which can be used as protection from the dead. October, a reader of occult literature, explains that undead spirits cannot move across wild roses. The next scene shows us the game in full swing as the players fight through a cemetery full of undead children. Miller hides from the enemies in a mausoleum where he finds an entrance going underground. He explores the tunnels which were previously closed and discovers a torture chamber. Meanwhile, Hutch and Abigail find a secret room hidden behind a closet where they find a portrait of Countess Elizabeth Bathory and a diary which had the prayer written in it at the start of the game. Phineas asks Miller where he is, and Miller tells them about being in the tunnels. He hears something and drops a rose, which was his last one. He proceeds inside the torture chamber and tells everyone about the gore there, along with the dead bodies. He is suddenly attacked by the Countess and stabbed in the neck. The gang decides to call it a night after that, and they tell Miller they'll invite him when they play next. Miller is alone in his office but senses that there is something outside. As he locks up to leave, his office door unlocks. He returns to lock it again, but it gets unlocked again. Annoyed and a little scared after playing the game, he peeks inside to see what is causing the door to unlock again and again. He hears the vibrations of his controller and bends down to pick it up. When he turns around, he screams as something attacks him. In the morning, Hutch arrives at his office to find it crawling with police and is informed about Miller's murder. Two lead detectives on the case, Thibodeau and King, ask him questions about the homicide. Hutch tells them about their gaming session late in the night and how Miller was playing with them. One of the detectives gets a little suspicious about Hutch when he reveals that his apartment is close by. However, they give him their contact and let him go. Before Hutch leaves, though, he gets a glimpse of Miller's dead body. Hutch goes to hang out with his friends, where Phineas opens the game and finds Miller's character dead in the torture room. He's been stabbed through the neck with a pair of scissors, just like in real life. They find this eerie, but Phineas is more inclined to play the game. Hutch wants Phineas to not play the game, but in the end, they leave him to play alone. Outside, October asks Abigail about herself, and Abigail tells her that she grew up in Georgia and is about to attend Princeton. When October lights up a cigarette, Hutch gets triggered and October immediately apologizes. Abigail asks him what happened, but he doesn't explain, telling her that he has a thing with fire. Hutch is on edge, thinking about the game and how Miller's death was exactly like his characters in the game. Abigail thinks it's just a coincidence, but Swink says it's too exact to be just bad timing. Hutch then says that Loomis and his friends also died within hours of playing the game and rushes to Phineas, with the others telling him that he is just being paranoid. Meanwhile, Phineas has been playing on his own and uses a mirror to look behind him. He spots the Countess's carriage in the mirror, which soon cracks because the Countess does not like mirrors. He uses the silver mirror's backside to see as the carriage approaches. He pauses just as he hears a sound which sounds like a horse's neigh. When Hutch and the others burst in, they see Phineas alive and healthy, merrily smoking away. Phineas tells Hutch that he understands he's been through a lot, what with his parents and now his friends, but he's freaking everyone out. After that, everyone goes off to do various things on their own. Phineas works on his car while Hutch is at his house shaving. Swink is working on his computer while October is cleaning the machines at the cafe. Weird occurrences begin to take place with all the friends, with Phineas almost being run over by a truck when he stands up after hearing an eerie sound. Hutch looks at himself in the mirror and sees his eyes rolling back and the mirror cracking. But when he steps back in shock, the mirror is whole and his eyes are normal. October sees the reflection of an undead girl in the reflective machine. Swink doesn't notice his keyboard spilling blood and smears his face with it before realizing what's going on. He freaks out again, but there's nothing there. He starts doing some research online about perceptive reality, while Hutch has snuck into the office and obtained the police reports of all his friends' murders. He does not notice a dead girl walking down the aisle from where he is. Hutch shows the reports to his friends as they all gather at the cafe. He says it is too much of a coincidence that Loomis, Rex, Sarah, and Miller all died exactly the same way that their characters did in the game. October then tells them about the George plantation and the story of Elizabeth Bathory. She says it was a real person, and all the game's details are based on her life: the cemetery, the tower, the torture chamber. She used to kill her victims with shears and used to hunt them down in a black carriage. Hutch tells her that he's only concerned with finding out how Loomis and Miller died, to which October says that when Elizabeth Bathory was caught, they locked her in the tower, and the last thing she said was that she'd get back one day to get her revenge. The group then worries about where Phineas is. We see Phineas on his way when the weather turns cloudy and Phineas almost runs over a figure he sees in the middle of the road. His car swerves into a tree, and when he gets out, there's nothing there. His friends call him up and he tells them where he is. Phineas asks Swink about the perceptive reality thing, saying he's been hearing and seeing weird things. October tells him not to worry as he did not die in the game. As Phineas waits, he hears the neighing of horses and is soon run over by a black carriage. October and the others are too late and arrive to see Phineas dead. Later, Swink and Hutch open the game and confirm that Phineas died exactly the same way in the game that he had paused. When the detectives arrive, Hutch tries to tell them about the game, but Thibodeau takes Hutch aside to talk to him, as he has begun to suspect Hutch, seeing that all the deaths are connected to him. As they talk, King plays the game, and Hutch tries to stop him, but King's character has died by then. October is distraught over her brother's death and blames Hutch for bringing this game into their lives. She tells them that they need to get more information about this game and whoever killed her brother. We see King headed to a video game store, where he finds out that Stay Alive is an underground game. He relayed this information to Thibodeau. As he gets into his car, he is attacked by an undead girl and killed. Meanwhile, Hutch and Abigail go to Loomis's house, where Hutch finally tells her about how his father set fire to their house because he suspected his wife of cheating on him. Hutch was the only one who survived and deals with guilt over the accident. As they break into the house, they go to Loomis's room and find the address of the game developers. They give this information to Swink over the phone, who is with October. October then gives him further information she's found in a book. She tells them that they need to drive 3 nails into Elizabeth Bathory's body and then set fire to her blood. As they're talking, there is a news report of King's murder as the police surround Hutch's apartment. Swink and October gather their stuff and sneak through the fire exit. They all meet up to discuss their next move, and October goes out for a smoke. Abigail discovers that the game is playing by itself and sees October's character on the screen. They go looking for her as the real October spots a ghost girl inside an under-construction house and goes to investigate. Armed with a nail gun, October comes across Bathory but fails to kill her as she's a ghost. By the time her friends find her, she has already been killed. Now there's only one thing left to do. The remaining friends go to the game developer's location. Upon arriving, Swink stays in the van and plays the game to distract the Countess while Hutch and Abigail go investigate. Upon entering the gates, Hutch realizes that they are at the real Geroge plantation. Abigail goes inside the house where she realizes the game was exactly the same design and recognizes the closet with the hidden door. She goes through and finds clippings about Bathory and even her silver shears. Lastly, she comes across the Countess's diary, which contains all the names of the girls who were killed. As the Countess finds Abigail, Hutch hears her screams and runs to get her. Swink helps him by unlocking doors in the game, and upon finding Abigail in the game, he throws roses at the Countess, saving Abigail. Hutch finally gets to Abigail in reality, and the two share a kiss. Meanwhile, Swink is locked out of the van as the game is about to run over his character with the carriage. Swink manages to save his character and breaks into the locked van to save himself. The Countess begins cheating, arriving in her carriage to kill Swink in real life, even though his character is alive. Swink decides to run for it until he falls over into a bush of roses. Hutch and Abigail return to the van to find Swink's character dead. They take the laptop and some wild roses, which they drop to deter undead children as they move toward the tower. They become separated, and Hutch performs the ritual on Bathory's body alone. Bathory's phantom attacks Abigail. At the top of the tower, Hutch finds the preserved body of Elizabeth Bathory and hammers 3 nails into it, after which the spirit disappears. Bathory's body reanimates, recalling that the Countess hates mirrors. Hutch uses the reflective laptop to repel her before setting the room ablaze. Swink, still alive due to the rosebush, bursts in with Abigail and rescues Hutch. As Bathory's body burns, the 3 leave the tower. Meanwhile, the gaming store is now selling copies of Stay Alive. Intrigued, a worker puts a copy in a PlayStation 2. As the intro to the game begins, the group reciting Elizabeth Bathory's prayer is heard as the game zooms to Bathory staring out her window, and this is where the movie ends. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get new movie recaps.